Let's talk more about this now with Matthew Dowd, our senior White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega. And Matt, let's talk first about, you said yesterday that the president's going to rely on this solid wall of Republican support in the Congress in order to keep his agenda moving. Now, he lost some Republicans on the Puzder nomination yesterday, but overall on the big issues, Republicans are holding firm with him.
Yeah, there seems to be two dominant strategies in the Republican Congress today, and using an Old West analogy, there is the circle the wagons. We're going to get into a defensive crouch, bring everybody together, and not going to allow anybody in and protect the president. But then there's a series of scouts, we'll say, that are going out saying we need to find out what the danger is and what the concern is. And so you're seeing some Republican senators and even beginning to see some Republican House members, but that's the two dominant things: a circle the wagons approach, and then some saying let's find out what's going on.
And Cecilia, when you watch this White House and the president and his staff, you've got the tweets from the president this morning going after the leakers, saying that failing New York Times has to apologize. In some ways, they seem to see the press more as the opposition than the Democrats.
And this is no different than the campaign, of course. I mean, we saw the president chant this at every rally that he had. It's definitely playing out in real time. I was in that press conference yesterday around reporters in the middle of the pack, mainstream reporters who were clearly not happy with the fact that in this press conference for perhaps the third time with a visit from a foreign leader, did not call on mainstream news organizations, is leaning heavily on calling on conservative outlets. The reason this matters, it's not because we're complaining as journalists, George. This is a huge departure from past administrations who traditionally, presidents have called on the Associated Press, have called on wire services, but they're cherry picking the questions, basically. They're not getting tough questions in these press conferences on basically the news of the day. We didn't see any real questions on Flynn yesterday, and that's a problem, George, when there are real answers that this administration owes about who knew what when.
To me, it's not about whether Cecilia Vega gets to ask a question or John Carl gets to ask a question or ABC. It's about no one that has an antagonistic question get answered. I mean, to me, there's two ways that you undermine the First Amendment. There's a full frontal assault on the First Amendment that we see in basically autocratic countries. That's not what's going on here. There's a subtle undermining of the First Amendment. The subtle undermining of the First Amendment is you call everything fake news that disagrees with you, and you don't call on any reporters that might ask you a question that is at all aggressive and might point out some factual deficiencies.
But Cecilia, they seem pretty determined to think this is going to work for them, that it's going to be effective.
Well, and it might be for the base, and it has been up until now. I don't know how long you can sustain it. I don't know, frankly, how much longer a lot of reporters and media in these briefings and in this press conferences will tolerate this. What you're seeing now is reporters standing up and shouting questions at the president, trying to get his attention. I don't know how much longer he can refuse to answer them.
Cecilia Vega, Matthew Dowd, thanks very much.